Hello everyone and welcome back to the Biggening Corporation. We're on episode 29 today and at the end of a very busy, hectic sort of day, so I'm looking forward to curling up with some code here. Alright, so today now that we have sorted out how the market will work and how the players will interact with that market and how it's going to be the backbone of the company, which probably should have spent a little more time on in the design stages, but here we are. We need to make the sales and purchase bots actually care about the market. So we'll see how much time we spend on that today. Could be the whole episode, might just be the beginning parts of the episode. I know at this point we've spent a lot of time in the bots, but realistically the bots are kind of the game, so it's okay. However, if we can get through that or far enough through that to call it good enough, then we will see what we can do about adding a couple of things around the power systems. We need the locations to start charging for their power usage against the power ledger entries there, and we also need to actually charge the players for the cost of power, and we'll think about how that will work. And then we have bots buying, bots receiving, we'll have bots selling, theoretically. I think we have the logistics box shipping, but I'm not sure about that, so we'll check that. And we will have locations, we will have power bills, so theoretically we will have the beginnings of a playable system, which is a pretty good place to be going into our next recap episode, so that'll be good. Alright, without much more babble here, let's remember to check in episode 28 code into GitHub. GitHub desktop on my secondary screen here. Alright, had a small stack of changes yesterday. Still sometimes a little tricky to fit everything into the day, so sometimes the check-ins don't happen until the next day. Alright, well, regardless of all that, let's take a look at our purchasing side of things here now. Now, we know that the bots now are going ahead and buying based on what is needed, and they are buying based on the number of operations per day. That makes perfect sense, but we are still just generating a random cost. Now we've got the market value of items. That market price is out there in the world now for items, so we will probably just buy, and the cost of that will be the market price. If you've configured things badly, then you could potentially be in a situation where you're buying things for higher cost than you are selling them, so players need to be wise about their settings, and I'm kind of okay with that. Alright, well, the good news for us is that the market price table is super simple, so we can always get it very easily. I don't know... I was about to say we could just go fetch to the market price table and just get today's current market price for a given item. Not today, but I am going to switch that up to a... Alright, we're going to call that through a little code unit, so that way we can potentially change the market prices based on different events or functions or things like that, because if we do it straight against the table, then later we would have to change the whole infrastructure, whereas if we are already calling a code unit, we can just swap in the functions. So let's just do a little tiny function call here on the market calculation code unit for a given item just to return the current market price. So that way later we can potentially do some before and after market price calculation event calls just to have the option. But we'll wrap it in that way we have the ability to hook things on later without a major rewrite. So get market price, and then this will be just an item number, which is a code 20, and this will return a market price. Nothing too crazy. And we're going to keep it nice and simple for now. And we just do because this calculate daily prices already runs off of the master heartbeat, there should be almost no time at all where the situation might be that there is no market price for a given item. But we'll still play it a little safe and do an if get. Just in case we're handed garbage, then we'll take that. So if we get the item number, then market price dot. I'm not a big fan of naming the table market price and then having the field also name market price. That nomenclature-wise is bugging the crud out of me. If something goes terribly wrong, that somehow a price doesn't exist on the market, I would rather we return 0 for the calculation purposes of this, and I'm explicitly declaring that. If we didn't explicitly declare that, we would still return 0, but I wanted to make it very obvious. So technically this is bad code because it's already an assumed. That's fine. We'll live with that. Alright, so now in the purchasing bot, instead of a random cost, we are going to need market calc, which is a code unit, which is our BCS market calculation. And easy as can be, get market price, purchase line dot number. There we go. Now our purchase bot is obeying the market. So, not too bad. Cool. Alright. One of the other things that we did in the prior episode was in our item list, we added a new control for players on our purchasing section, which is captioned poorly, but we'll fix that in a moment, which is the maximum purchase price. So what we should do is intercept this call fairly early on here. So the flow of this is that the purchasing bot, if it's assigned to a vendor, will see are there any items needed for that particular vendor for that day in this little function call. And in this scenario, it goes through all of the items that vendor sells to see if we need it. However, we need to intercept here. We might need some. We're running low on our fabric or something like that, but the market price might be too high. And if the market price is too high, then that's somewhere where we should bail out of that too. So we are going to need, because are any orders needed and what item is needed functionally are very similar, which I honestly should genericize and wrap those better. We're going to need to do a market price check in both of those, so that we don't end up with a situation where we get wrong data somewhere. So are any orders needed? Here in this we will do we spit out true if we need to reorder anything for this item, but that should only be true if the market calc get market price for item dot number is less than or equal to the item dot BCS max purchase price. There we go. Now the purchasing bot will not even consider it a necessary order to create if the market price is too high. So that's good. And again, we're duplicating code, which means we've already got a problem. But we're going to need to think about that another time. We've spent a lot of time in this purchasing bot. I don't know how many episodes, but too many, honestly. Okay, so cool. Excellent. We have a nice, simple situation there that if the item is over the purchase price, bail out, run away. We don't want to buy it. That works for me. Now, our sales order side is a whole nother beast. I had talked about doing an off-camera time-lapse recording session to update our sales bot to not just be as random as it is. I'm sort of glad I didn't, because we finally yesterday really actually defined what is going to be the logic that will drive whether or not the bot is going to sell a given item to a customer. Because just because the customer wants a deep discounted item does not necessarily mean we should sell it for the low price, and who's getting that price anyways? So we need to really think about the workflow of what will drive the sales bot to trigger a sale. So if we look at our bot list, we have just the one sales bot at the moment, and it's doing an operations per day of 5 and a maximum document lines of 5. Now, the way we handled this over in the purchasing side, the doc lines per operation, I'm not sure that parallels correctly. So let's see here. Alright, so okay. Interesting. Structurally, this is a bit bonkers, in that we have it commented that we just create one line, and the function is called create line, but within here we do iteration through the maximum document lines per operation, and we're currently safety catching 0 to 1, which is why these bots are even working, because they don't have a maximum document lines, so it's being treated as 1. So a little bit of bad thinking, bad design here, in that this shouldn't be create line, it should be create lines. And we are going to want to work similarly, I think, on the sales side, wherever possible, keeping that pattern of parallel development between purchase and sales is a good idea. I don't know what that note is for. Oh, yeah. Fun. Yeah, good stuff. Brilliant. Next line number, we're setting it to 10,000. Then we create a line and we insert it. We don't do anything to increment it. That would have been a fun bug to find later. We'll use the auto split key style of creating gaps of 10,000. That's fine. Doesn't matter so much in what we're doing, because frankly the users aren't going to have the rights to edit it. Okay. Cool. Then this makes some sense. We're going to copy a little bit of this structure. So let's hop back over to our bot sales. Alright, so operations per day is not going to drive how many sales orders we create. It's going to drive how much we can sell, much as we did here in the purchasing bot. But the vendors had a maximum orders per day. Do we have a similar field on customers? I feel like we did. Been a while since we looked at the sales side, and like I said, hectic day. Yeah, max orders per day. Okay. So, yep, we can parallel the code a bit here. Great. So, we don't need to use the same logic of are there any orders needed. We will potentially need to do a different strategy around are there any items over the price, which will work kind of similarly. So we'll think about that. But we do need the max orders per day logic. That part we definitely need. So let's bring that over. However, let's bring that over through the magic of some find replace here. Purge header becomes sales header, and buy from it's lowercase vendor becomes our sell to customer, and I think that's yep. There we go. That works. Alright, so we're going to nix this whole operation here where it was doing the ops per day. And we need from a programmatic standpoint here, well, for starters, we don't need all this chitter chatter. It's just clutter. We don't need to preserve it. It's not complicated. We're going to recreate it anyways. From a programmatic point of view, the assignment code on SalesBots is going to be non-blank most of the time, so let's just make sure that's the first. I don't think there's a significant performance difference to that, but you know, stylistically it would bug me if I didn't do that way. Alright, so we need sales header. We know and we know we need cust as a record, customer. Sure. Okay, and we don't have the max order per day message, so let's borrow you over to our sales side. And this is customer number already has blah 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 orders for that date. Alright, there we go. We also broke some begin ends. There we go. At least now the compiler is not screaming at us. That's always a good start. It's never a sign of working code, but it's at least not screaming. Okay, so now we've got code in here to create a sales order. As we learned, we're not going to do testing just one, and we are in fact going to create lines as relevant. So what we need to do then is we need here determine what the cust will buy and if any items in stock are over this min sell price. Okay, so we've got somewhat functional code like that on the purchase side, but not really. So I think what I would like to do is put all of that logic down here into this create orders rather than have it be in the on run. I think we've kind of cluttered up the on run of the purchase bot a little bit too much. Just a little bit, not a crazy amount. And I don't want to have too much complexity to a single function. It would be easier for our testing ability also to just call create orders. So let's move this, and we're just going to call create orders rec.assignment code, which actually, let's change this up. Create orders here is grabbing the customer number. Let's pass it the bot instance because we learned that that was way better. We don't need to var, do we? Yeah, let's do it. Bot instance instance, and we know that this is the assignment code. There we go. So that's not too crazy to handle that around. And we also learned that we need the bot instance to go down to the lines. So we'll bring that down here, and we'll make that in our purchase side. Did we make that first or second parameter? Just trying to be consistent with myself. First parameter. That's what I thought. That's what I would have chosen, so alright, makes sense. Bot instance sales center. Okay. Excellent. Sounds good. So now we need a little routine that goes through our specially created customer interest table, and based on the items that are in our system, review the minimum sell price of those items against the market price. So we know we need the cost interest table. We know we need the item table, because that's going to be where we're getting the settings. BCS customer interest. And we know that we're going to need the market calc code unit for sure. Okay. Alright, so the customer interest table, let me revisit this because honestly I don't remember. I wonder if there's a good way to kind of clutter this up. I appreciate all these get buttons, but honestly they're taking up more room than helps me. It's just noticing that slowly all of my tab space is being eaten by extensions, and I might need to fix that because that's going to drive me a little bonkers. Okay, so customer interest table, we have this by product posting group and item category code. So for each interest in the table, there's going to be potential items in the system that meet those criteria, theoretically. So let's see. I'm just thinking about we need to potentially throw an error if there are no items whatsoever that meet the customer interests. And that's a little tricky because we need to look up items based on these filters, and there could be 20 interest entries. So we can't just do a quick count. You know what I'm going to do is I am going to create a nice little buffer table, of a temporary record set of all of the items that meet the criteria. So they have to be in stock, they have to match one of the customer interests, and they have to be over the minimum sell price. And then from that buffer table, we will randomly select some values in that, or even better, we will set them to look. We'll let the sales bots be smarter about this and try to get the highest value, the highest, the largest difference between the minimum sell price and the market price. That sounds like a good idea. Okay. Apologies, a lot of talking today, and I'm needing to hydrate a little more than usual. So temp items. We're just going to do a temporary because we will go through. First of all, customer interest set range on our customer number based on the bot instance assignment code, and if customer interest find set, we're not going to modify. Then I'm doing the type it all out again when I should be using my snippets. Gotta catch myself at that. There are some habits that are hard to break. Okay, so for this interest, we are going to item.setRange. And the nice thing about doing this against the item table is if items that the players can trade in are locked behind research, they'll be in the master table but not in the local player table. So if they haven't done some sort of research that'll unlock the class 2 and class 3 items, even if the customer might be interested in those, they can't possibly be available in this data set. So that'll work great. So gen product posting group, cust interest product posting group. And those are always going to be in there as pairs in the customer interest table. They're going to be in they will have both the item category code, and they're not just going to be interested in an entire category or an entire product posting group. It has to be both. So, and it would be smart for us already at this stage to do a simple check here of if item not item dot is empty. So if they have no items that match the customer interest, we'll skip this step, because our next step will be to potentially do another lookup to the market prices, or to do a flow field calculation on the inventory level. And both of those are going to involve more SQL calls. So in our case here, if we don't have any items that that customer is interested in just based on their customer interest for any reason, then skip the whole thing. We don't need to do those extra steps. So wherever you can, just kind of try to cull out any gets or calc fields that aren't necessary with just an extra bit of if statement. Yeah, it's a little more to troubleshoot, but it'll save you on the retrieval side. So I'm thinking that in stock to me matters more first than the sell price cross check, because we might be interested in a couple different things with that. So we're gonna do inventory. I'm okay with just calculating on inventory. I think that'll be all right. Nope. There is a quantity on sales order. So if there's already a bunch going out that day, if you only have 100 in stock and all of those 100 are on sales orders for other customers, we need to not try to sell those 100 a second time. This is not a Ponzi game. If item.inventory minus the item.quantity on sales order, because this does take into account just outstanding, is greater than 0, then keep going. Because we don't need to do the market price check if they don't have any. So that's another if statement around our checking of things. Alright, so we'll get the market price, and let's store that just for quick, easy market price, just so that way we can fetch it at the beginning and then potentially utilize this a few times. I don't know that it's necessary, but hey, let's give it a whirl just cause. Okay, so if item dot min sell price is less than or equal to the current market price, then begin. And now here what we're going to do is we're going to do a temp item dot number is equal to the item dot number temp items dot, and I'm going to go with I'm just trying to think of safer validation fields. We know, for example, that the BCS minimum sales price, that has no validations on it. We added it. There's no hooks on that. So we can borrow that field on a temporary record. to equal the current market price minus the BCS minimum sales price. So if the current market price is 75 and the item minimum sale price is 50, we're going to store 25. So we will get a 25 unit, dollar, euro, whatever. We'll get a 25 profit per item. And the reason I'm storing that difference is so we can make those bots think about it. We don't want to run any triggers on inserting this item. That's perfectly fine. We're just buffering it up. So now theoretically we only got what the customer will buy. If we're in stock, it's worth it, all that sort of stuff. Now, if temp items is empty, then we know we can skip out of this whole operation. There's nothing that is no stock over market price message, which there are no items in stock over market price. The customer, I don't want to go like super lengthy, so let's just leave it at that, because this message is going to show up in the bot activity log, and I don't want to go too huge with these messages, and they will know what customer this was assigned to. This is kind of a little bit redundant, so we'll skip that. They've got that already from the context of this. So here we will begin end result text will be set to this message, and we will exit. Nice and simple. We will skip out of creating orders altogether. We're also not going to return any order numbers. That's silly. It's fine. Because we're potentially going to create multiple orders. So there's no value to passing this back. We're not going to do anything up here with this receiving of it at this time anyways. Okay, so alright. I'm just looking at what this does here. For starters, I don't know, I must have copied and pasted that from somewhere else, because that message doesn't make sense in this context. Okay, so now that we know we've got some items to potentially sell from, we create a sales header, we insert it for that customer, and then we're going to create some lines off of that. But now we know that we need to pass in our temporary buffer record here, that is the items the customer is willing to buy. So that way we don't have to recalculate that. Interested items record item temporary. Yeah. Sometimes I get a little wrapped around the axle on how to structure passing of temporary var record the correct way. That's a little crazy, huh? Okay. And I am a big fan of naming these temp, so that way we know what's up. In production environments, I would absolutely, before doing this insert call, do a check to make sure is temporary. I would rather blow up at the user in an insane sort of way than potentially do live changes. So if you're going to use a lot of temporary records, which I admit I absolutely overuse them, to be fair, whenever you're doing inserts and modifies, do some safety checking. Make sure that you don't destroy real data. Okay, so we know which items we're interested in, and we've created a sales order for this customer. We have a max orders per day. Did we check that in our above column? I believe we did. Max orders per day. Yes, we did. Excellent. Okay. Cool. The way this is written, they could technically go over it. Maybe. Well, that's an interesting point. No. Because if the customer max orders per day is 6, we're calling this function creates 1. There's nothing that's driving how many orders the bot is creating. But if you have multiple bots assigned to the same customer, then that would, yeah, alright, yeah, we'd be doing one at a time, so we'd be alright. Okay, let's go with it for now. Alright, now, on our create lines for purchase, we do a safety check for the max stock lines. I dig that. We're definitely going to bring that over. Code can come over as is. And then we are going to create some lines per operation. No, per lines per operation. Which realistically is not lines per operation. It's just maximum document lines. It's not per operation anymore. So that probably should be renamed. And I'm okay with that. So now we want to steal this code just because I'm lazy and don't feel like typing it out. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to create up to the maximum number of document lines this bot will make, and we want to do the best deals we can for the player. So the way we'll handle that is we will take our temp interested items and we will set the current key on our BCS. I'm a little bit nervous about this, to be perfectly frank. When we can set current key on things, but it's an extension field, which means that there's actually a join going on, and we're therefore kind of creating a really poor performance situation by using the extension field to do the sorting. So I'm a little leery about doing this, but we'll see how bad it goes. And let's see, set ascending BCS mix false. Yeah, right. And I'll explain in just a second if you're not sure what I'm doing. Okie doke. So what I'm trying to do here is find the highest value trade. Because as I gave the example earlier, if the market price was 75 and we had the minimum sell price of 50, this would be 25. That would be a better deal than a 60-50 situation. So we're going to try to do temp interested items first. Now, the other flip side here is that in our customer, we have a maximum quantity per day. And honestly, I think in the vendor side, didn't we have max quantity per day there too? Yeah, we do. So we might need to take a look at, there's nothing here that is checking the maximum vendor per day. So we're just going to kind of let that ceiling slide for the moment on both sales and purchase side, just to get us across this finish line faster here for now. So what we need then is we need to grab the temp interested items dot number. Sounds good. And then the unit price on this is going to again be something we're going to fetch from the market calc. Code unit. Sounds good. Quantity is about to be a little bit interesting though. Sales line dot number. Okay, so here's our challenge. For the quantity, we can only sell up to the maximum that we have in inventory. So let's look at this. Quantity to sell, max in stock. Well, I'll call it inventory just for clarity's sake. The maximum it can be is in inventory, and the max the way we handled this on this side was the ops per day of the bot instance. But if okay, so yeah, the max setting is of inventory, and then we will otherwise use the ops per day amount. Okay, so if the bot instance dot ops get ops per day is greater than, and to do this we need to do item dot get the temp items interested number. I haven't defined items yet, so it's yelling at me. Okay. Which does mean that we need to calculate the item. You know what? Let's do this real quick. We're parking a few things in here that have already been calculated. We're parking the value in BCS minimum sales price of the trade value. Since we've already got what's available to sell based on what's in inventory not spoken for, let's park that value as well. So that way we don't have to recalc it later. And we'll call that the maximum stock. Sure. There we go. And that way we're not calculating the flow fields, two of them, twice when we don't really need to. So that means we don't need the item either. We can skip that. That's fine. So now, temp interested items dot the maximum stock is how many are available. So if the operations per day is greater than the maximum stock available, then the sales line quantity should just be whatever we've got left in stock. Maybe we only have one item left in stock. So we create an order for that one left. Otherwise, we'll create the order to the ops per day. And I'm okay with calling this function twice. That's generally not going to be a particularly heavy function. Okay. All right. Cool. Whoa. Yeah. All right. I think that makes sense. So, the other thing that we do here is if we only have that one left in stock and we're selling that on the line and it gets the next document lines per operation, that isn't correct as a balance anymore. So we do need to adjust that buffer entry to be reflective of the new availability information. Otherwise, we're going to get ourselves in a world of trouble here. So temp interested items dot BCS maximum stock equals the temp interested items dot BCS maximum stock minus the sales line dot quantity. There we go. Modify. Cool. temp record. Oftentimes you got to be a little bit careful when you use real records as temporary buffers and things like that, because if you write code that hooks onto onModify for an item, guess what? That event, it fires too. So you kind of need to do in your eventing when you hook onto tables, you may also need to do some isTemporary checking. Something to be aware of, something to think about. But yeah. All right. We're going to assume it's safe for the moment, which is a crazy thing to do. If you are going to be like me and use a lot of temporary tables, the main key that you should go for is find a logical table that is in the system. They're almost always named by naming schema of like buffer. And you can make use of these tables more efficiently than yeah. So like for example here, inventory buffer. This is primary keyed on item number, variant, dimension entry, blah 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 blah, a whole lot of things, and then it has a key based on some other things. So it can be really valuable to look at using smarter buffer tables for the job of what you're trying to do, because you should not be writing any events against buffer tables generally speaking, unless you assume that they're going to be temporary. Whereas things like the item table itself, you can usually assume people are not going crazy with doing lots of stuff for temporary on that. Usually. But here we are, doing it anyways. So if the new stock level of this temporary interested item, BCS max stock, is equal to or less than 0. If it goes less than 0, we've done something terribly wrong, but we'll just take that as it is for now. Then we want to say if not temp interested items dot next, then exit. It's just hating my syntax. Actually, let's do this a little less bananas crazy with our knots. Alright, there we go. Okay, so if we are iterating through what customers are interested in and they're only interested in one item and we only have one in stock and we sell that, and the bot then goes to create the next sales line, it shouldn't try to sell any more of that item. They're gone. If there are no other items left, next equals 0, we've hit the end of stream basically, then we should bail out of this whole function. We're all done at this point. So that makes sense. No. If we go down this little path and we bail out, we didn't actually call the modify on that quantity, and that would go poorly for us. So what we basically need to do is exit out of this for loop without repeating on to the next one. Which is effectively the same as getting out of here, but we do potentially still need to call the unit price and modify on that. So we can't just move the unit price validate above quantity validate, because quantity validates the pricing information, revalidates that, so you don't want to do that. Oh, we can move this. This doesn't have to be inside of there. That's fine. Yeah, we can move this. It doesn't have to be in that if statement. As a matter of fact, we can do it after the line. That's fine. No problem. Yeah. Because we do want to decrease the amount of available stock that was calculated, regardless of whether or not that was the end of a line. We always want to decrease that maximum stock. Yeah, that's fine. Great. Yeah, and then after the line is inserted, if we decrease it and it goes to 0 and then there's nothing more to do, then we'll exit the whole function. Okay, yeah. Just that didn't need to be inside this comparative of whether or not we were over the maximum inventory. Right. Oy. So now we have the ghastly challenge of how on earth we test this particular sequence of things. Okay. Always a good idea to publish. Our first one of the episodes, that's fun. Always makes me laugh when I'm looking at the clock going, we only have a few minutes left and I haven't published. So, alright. And unfortunately, because it's the first publish, it's possible this may take a couple minutes. We'll see. First publish of the day, obviously. Out of curiosity, just to take a look, market trades. Oh, now I'm thinking in the wrong place. If we go to our items, I'm curious to see how much the price is inflated on things because we aren't really trading. Not a lot. Okay. I wonder why that is. Out of curiosity, because the price has... that was one of the things I was thinking might be so. Our heartbeat listener in this company hasn't been running for an awfully long time, since I think Friday. And also, let's see if we broke our master heartbeat in the main company here with some of our publishes. Entirely possible, because that market price should have gone up more than just 5. Okay, master heartbeat is still ticking along. Alright. So we may need to look at market price history. Let's see. Because we have market trades ticking along, but we keep the total trades for the day. Do we in this log any history of that? Let's see. So we're doing trading volume. We look at the total trades, blah, blah, blah. We look at market movement, and then we set the new market price based on that market movement. But we don't set any of the market history of those. Ooh, that's not so great. And that is true. We are not actively trading on the market, so... If an item has no trades whatsoever, we should still create an entry for that item for that date with a price to show that the trading volume was 0, because that means that if we don't find it, it's fault safe. It would equal 0 if there's no value, but we should really store or update the market trading price for a given date when we're inserting it. Okay. Okay. Yeah. We should have that. Because right now I'm like looking at this going, we need to be able to see the market price to go up and down to test the purchasing and sales bots doing their thing. But the market prices aren't being recorded over time because there's no trading activity yet. So let's fix that oversight. Anytime we are setting a new market price, we really should create a related entry. Create or update because the market trades might exist or it might not exist. Let's store the value either way. So we're going to create a little procedure: safe store market price for a given item number, code 20, and price is decimal. Punctuation matters. Yep. Okay. So same thing up here that we did, the market trades. We will need that var. Market trades. And then in here we can just copy our logic and we can say, okay, before we change the market price for a given day, we want to record the old price effectively. So so we will do a check to see for, we want yesterday's prices because we're about to change them. Does that make sense? Let's treat this as the start of day. All the market prices will be reflecting the start of the game day. That sounds better. Alright. So in that case, it's just as simple as market trades set range date to the work date. If market trades dot find first, because there should only be one. I mean, honestly, we could just as easily, let's do that. We could just as easily do a get, because it's, oh no, it's not. That's right. The trades is per company. We set that as a PK. I forgot we added that. Perfect. In that case, we want to update all of the price data for that given item number date across the tables, so that way we've got the data. That sounds reasonable. So if find set, because this little code unit is one of our master company ones, so we need to do that across all the boundaries, and we're going to say true, then begin. Oh, yeah, if it's per company, we need to approach this in a slightly different way. Companies, record, company. Perfect. So now, if companies, should we do it by company or by player? Yeah, let's do it by player. It's safer. Player record. Because the player entry is all the companies involved that are involved in the game, whereas companies, maybe you have a production company that you're actually using, or Cronus or whatever have you. So if player find first, nope, set. Then, oh my god, I'm doing it again. R repeat. Come on. Okay. Market trades. Whoa. I don't know if you caught that. When you use the R repeat snippet, it's doing a multi-select, and it put my cursor in both places, so when I started typing here, it also started typing there. That's funny. Okay. Which, if you didn't know you could do that, just hold down Alt and now you're typing in all the places. Okay. Market trades, set range on the company, which is the player.company name. Easy enough. If we don't find one for that given player and company and item, which is likely, market trades not find first, then I would like to insert one. It does mean that we are going to be building a pretty big cube of info in this market trade table because it's every item, every player company for every date of the game. So that is going to be a really beefy table. But I think it's going to be one of the more revealing analytical sources in the system, so we're just going to deal with the fact that it's going to be a giant pile of data. The Power BIs on this by the second month of playing is going to be a nightmare of I have honestly no idea how many people are going to be alpha testing this, and I don't know how crazy that's going to be. If we think about it from the fact that it's 4 game days an hour, 24 hours a day, and we do 1 month, that's 2,000 entries. If we figure on all of the items that are in the system that this will be against, there's probably going to be a good 300. So you're talking a lot of records for that month times 20 players. So yeah, it could get big. So this might be something that we have to look at managing as a pile of data. This may get too huge. So guess we'll see. And that is iterating through master item. Yep. Makes sense. Because I would rather have there be 0 entries here, so that way Power BI and stuff like that has the entry to see that it is a 0 value rather than just handle it as a blank, I think. I haven't spent a lot of time in Power BI, so we'll find out when we get there, because we're gonna. Alright, so if we don't find anything, market trades item number is equal to item number short. And as I said, beginning of the day, company, player.company name, and then the market trades dot price is equal to price, and market trades dot insert. Sure. And if we do find first, then it's just wham, and and away that goes. It's weird to me that insert is not blue, but modify is. That's weird. Wonder what's up with that. No idea. Anyways, so yeah, okay, we'll safe store market price. Now you'll notice I wrote this nice beautiful function, but we have 0 references. I almost wish that was a highlighted thing. See real clear that that's 0 references, because that means we need to actually put that somewhere. Yeah, and we're doing and since we're treating this as start of day, whatever the new price is, we can safe store market price for this master item dot number and whatever the market price dot market price is. There we go. Okay. Alright. Well, that's a lot of stuff going on, but I'm pretty happy with that. Alright. So, we did not get to our secondary goals, but we did get through all of our primary ones. We are going to have to spend a little time in the not too distant future, probably the early part of next week, doing a new start to finish test flow, and that will be our opportunity to test these market values of items going in and out of the system. We still need very much to have the player functionality around initializing things. We need to have players get charged for their power usage and all that sort of whatnot. Oh, I'm in the master company. There's no values here. But I think we're in a pretty good place with all of that. So I think we'll do the power focus tomorrow. So that way we can get some things done. For example, we don't currently have any functionality in place on locations to say how much power do they take. And I think that would be something that we need to do. And it's going to be time real soon to revisit our friendly bot template situation. There is nothing in here for how are they going to potentially unlock different tiers and that sort of thing. And with so location and power probably will be our first and foremost stop tomorrow, and then we'll start looking at some of that bot tier handling, and I think that'll have us in really, really good shape. Okay. Well, somewhat successful of a day. We'll call it pretty decent. We got to our primary goal, and we'll get to our secondary goals pretty quick tomorrow. So, thank you all for watching, and I appreciate the follows and subscribes. I've seen a lot of folks in the past couple weeks do that, and oddly enough, it does help show up in a lot of statistics for whatever weird reason, so it is appreciated. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.